Hey there, this is Niels Beardfoot, and today we are making mushroom and honeycomb greaves. Get your pattern and print it, cut it and transfer it onto the leather. We're using mostly 3.5mm or 9-ounce wedge tanned leather. To make the difficult cuts a little easier, use a round hole punch first on the inner corners and then cut everything out. Next, we want to bevel all the edges. We also need a few sewing holes as well as round holes for rivets. On a few pieces, like this honeycomb piece, we want to thin out the leather on the flesh side a little bit. Now we can moisten all the pieces for tooling. When wedge tanned leather is moistened, you can easily make any kind of imprints like this, transferring here the pattern on the leather. Also, we can cut it with a swivel knife and then use a variety of different tooling stamps to give everything more shape and depth. For a more rustic look, I like to use a stone and just hammer it into the leather. Also recently I made my own stamps from wood, and this is where I try them out first time. For dyeing I like to use my airbrush, and here I start with a yellow coat on some green areas just to keep the green a little bit more light. After applying base coats with green and brown, I like to go over it with some dark brown to give the edges more depth and make everything more rustic. After this we can apply our resist onto the leather. This keeps for one side the dye in the leather and dirt out, and as well as a preparation for antique gel. If you also put it on the edges, this works very well with burnishing. After the resist dried, we can put on some antique gel to make everything darker, especially in the deep tooled areas. And after we put it everywhere, we just wipe away all the excess. And another coat of resist to finish it up. If you want to go for even more used look, you can use some 1000 grit sandpaper to carefully grind away some of the dye to lighten up the high spots. Once everything is dry, we completely moisten all the pieces again, and this is actually a very important part because we have to pre-shape the pieces before we put them together, else we will have quite a huge difficulty to, in the end, get everything into shape. It does not need to be perfect now, but the rough shape needs to be done here. Later on we can redo some of the details. On the honeycomb we want to use our bone folder to deepen the grooves that we cut there and use it to fold along these lines. Also with our thumbnail we want to deepen these corners to press them really out, because this makes a lot change in the look. For this piece I bended the parts more outward so they are slightly curved, and to maintain this shape later on as well, I take some scrap pieces, cut some thin straps about 5mm wide and glue them on the flash side. Now we can start assembling, and on this piece we can use rivets to hold everything in place for sewing. With the rivets everything stays in place as it intended, and then we use some glue on the still open edges to glue it in place, just to hold it in place for now. Then you can with an awl cut the sewing holes all the way through and then sew it. The next piece is this one, and here the sewing holes are already on the base, but some are covered up, so we need to use our awl to cut these holes open from the flash side. On this piece I also put on some scrap pieces of leather on the flash side to give it more body, and here as well we can use a rivet to hold everything in place. When you glue it on, you just want to make sure it's not tilted to the left or the right, but just exactly in the center. Here we cut these sewing holes as well all the way through, but there's a rivet and most likely it's in the way, so be sure to cut some holes in an angle away from the rivet. So far the honeycomb grooves and the mushroom grooves are the same, but they split up now, and we first start with the honeycombs. Here we also have to first cut free some of the sewing holes. Then we take our honeycomb pieces and on these holes sew them together. Note that they are all a little bit different in size, so there is an order you want to maintain. Once all are sewn together like this, we can close the gaps on the top side. And then assemble the rest of the greaves. For the mushroom greaves, we first have to create the mushroom. We need some thin leather here for the body, cut it into shape and punch a few sewing holes. For the head we can use a little bit thicker leather, and only this one we dye. Putting on some resist as we did with all the other pieces and burnish the edges. The body of the mushroom we want to moisten completely, so we have an easier time shaping it. There's a sewing line on the bottom part, and this we want to sew in a wavy way, which means that the leather goes up and down, and with sewing we want to hold it in place like this, just as shown. This way we have an easier time later on shaping the rest of the mushroom. These waves you want to extend all over the mushroom body. And in between sew on the smaller heads of the mushroom. Create some more waves, sew on the mushroom head. Create some more of these waves, sew on the last of the smaller mushroom heads. Create some more waves and then sew on the big head. Once mostly dried, we can start sewing it on these sewing edges onto our greaves. You want to sew it on invisible, and to make this easier I use only one thread, one needle, and keep them very loose until I'm all the way through, and then I retighten afterwards all the thread. This way you can barely in the end see the thread, and it is in fact quite invisible sewed on. Note that this top piece has a broken off tip to fit, but before we sew it on we have some gaps here on the left and on the right, and to close these I got these small little mushrooms with I have a different video for you. Check out in the top right corner. We sew them on and then we can sew on the top piece as well. Depending if you're satisfied with the shape already or not, you can re-moisten the whole greaves and then make here and there some additional details fit into place. To make wearing a little bit more comfortable, I like to use some foam on the inside. In this case it's 10mm low density EVA foam, and simply glue it in position. And at last we get our straps and buckles and put them on so we can wear the greaves. And this is it. Thank you for watching and see you guys next time. Have a great day.